And may I now invite Justice Markandeya Kadzu, the Chairman of the Press Council of India, for his keynote address. As I invite Justice Markandeya, ladies and gentlemen, would once again like to apprise the two papers which have been just now released by the Honourable Minister. We thank her, and now I invite Justice Markandeya for his keynote presentation.
Honourable Minister for Information and Broadcasting, Mrs. Ambika Soni, dignitaries on the dais, off the dais, and friends. I'm not going to speak on this topic of digitization for inclusive growth because I'm not an expert on this topic. So with the permission of the organizers, which permission I took beforehand, I'm going to speak generally about the media, if I may. Historically, the media arose as an organ of the people against feudal oppression in Western Europe, particularly in Britain and France, in the 17th and 18th centuries. At that time, all the organs of power were in the hands of the feudal authorities. So the people had to create new organs which could serve their purpose. And this organ was the press. At that time, the only media was the print media. And great writers like Voltaire, Rousseau, Thomas Paine, etc., played a great historical role in helping the transformation of Europe from a feudal society to a modern society. Voltaire attacked religious bigotry. Rousseau attacked feudal despotism. Thomas Paine proclaimed the rights of man. And before that, in England, great writers fought against the feudal despotism of the Stuart kings. This was of great help to society. It helped society move forward into the modern age. So the freedom of the press was used to benefit society. But freedom of the press is like a knife. It can be used to benefit people. It can also be used to stab people. So it all depends on what purpose the freedom of the press is being used. Because later on, the media was converted into a commercial enterprise for blocking progress and only to fill the pockets of some owners of the press who were often also owners of some other industries. In our own country, as you have seen, this has very largely happened. The media is largely commercialized. What else is this TRP rating and all which we are talking about? The electronic media owners tell the editors and anchors, look, we must have high TRP rating. That's all I'm bothered about. So the freedom of media can be of great help to society and can also do great harm to society. At present, our country, India, is passing through a transitional period in history. Transition from feudal society to a modern industrial society. We are neither totally feudal nor we are totally modern. We are somewhere in between. This transitional period is a very painful and agonizing period in history. if you have read the history of Europe from, say, the 17th to the 19th centuries, you will find this period, this transition period, was full of turmoil, turbulence, wars, revolutions, social churning, intellectual ferment, theories of Voltaire, Rousseau, and so on, the thinkers of the Enlightenment, the encyclopedists. After going through that fire, modern society emerged in Europe. India is presently going through this fire. We are going through a very painful period in our history, which I guess will last another 15, 20 years. It's going to be a very turbulent period, this coming 15, 20 years. And it is the duty of all patriotic people who genuinely love their country to help society get over this transition period faster, with lesser pain. You cannot totally eliminate the pain, but you can reduce it. This is the duty of every patriotic citizen of India. And that includes the media. See, in this transition period, the role of the media becomes very important, as it was in Europe when Europe was passing through their transition period between 17th to 19th centuries. Because the media is not an ordinary business which deals with commodities. The media deals with ideas. And ideas are extremely important in this transitional period. The media has to spread scientific ideas, rational ideas, and combat backward feudal ideas of casteism, communalism, superstitions, etc. Today, the unpleasant truth is that 90% people of this country, their heads are full of casteism, communalism, superstitions. Everybody knows it. When 90% people in this country go to vote, they do not see the merit of the candidate, they see his caste, they see his religion. And like sheep and cattle, they go and vote for a person on the basis of his caste or religion, even if he's not a deserving person, because he belongs to my caste. Is that not the truth in this country? And has this truth not to be spoken out? And when I speak out, I am criticized. Truth should not be spoken. I spoke to one owner of he's the owner of some journals. He is the owner of several TV channels. I will not name him. And he said, look, I'm a businessman. I will give to the public what the public want. That gives me profits. I said, look, you are degrading the media. The media is not an ordinary business dealing with commodities. You're not running a shoe shop or a shop selling shirts or trousers. You are dealing with ideas. Your job should be to uplift the intellectual level of the Indian masses from the very low level at which it presently stands, and try to bring up the Indian masses and make them part of enlightened India. But instead what you do, instead of bringing up the intellectual level of the Indian masses, you go down to their level and seek to perpetuate their level. Every day I see so many channels showing astrology, which is pure nonsense, pure superstitions, but it gives you high TRP rating. Just see, apply your little common sense. Does the movement of the stars and planets decide whether you will become a doctor or become an engineer or a lawyer, or whether you will die at the age of 50 years or die at the age of 80 years? Is there any connection between the two? It is all humbug. But 90% Indians unfortunately believe in it because the level is so low, their intellectual level. And the media must stoop down to their level and perpetuate it. Instead of helping the people come up to a higher level, instead of spreading rational ideas like great writers like Voltaire and Rousseau did in Europe, you seek to go down to the level and perpetuate their low level of intellect. The media people often harp on Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution, which gives freedom to the media. They overlook Article 51, capital A, Clause H of the Constitution, which imposes a fundamental duty to develop the scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry. That is conveniently overlooked by the media. You have to read both the provisions together. On the one hand, you have a right, freedom. At the same time, that freedom is coupled with responsibilities and duties. And the duty which the Constitution casts on you is to develop the scientific temper and the spirit of inquiry. But that you don't bother about because that will not give you profits. Today, the reality is that 80% of the Indian people are living in horrible poverty. There's massive unemployment. Even for a job of chaprasi, I know I was Chief Justice of 3 High Courts, even for a job of chaprasi, there are thousands of applications, some MA, some MBA, some MSc, begging for a job of a chaprasi. There's skyrocketing prices, health care. The poor people can't buy medicines, they're so costly. They can't go to doctors because the private doctors are so expensive. You try to go to any of these private clinics, very good clinics, no doubt. But the poor people can't afford it. You go to the government hospitals, they are in a terrible condition. Even you go to AIIMS, which is the premier institution in India, it's like a railway station. Thousands of people sitting, unless you are a VIP, nobody cares for you. Go to other government hospitals, they are in a filthy condition, there's no blood, there's no machines, often electricity is not coming, and often the government doctors hardly come there, they secretly run their private clinics because it makes them a lot of money. So the poor people cannot get proper medical treatment. This is the condition of our country, of 80% of our people. Now, I'm not saying the media should not provide some entertainment. All right, everybody wants to see some sports, hear some music. That's all very well. The media must not only address the real issues, which are basically economic, but also provide some entertainment. But if 90% of your coverage is entertainment, and only 10% is dealing with the real issues, the massive economic issues facing the country, then I say that not only you have lost your sense of proportion and priorities, you are deliberately diverting the attention of people from the real issues, which are economic, to non-issues, lives of film stars. Which film star is having an affair? Which film star has become pregnant? Which film star has given birth to one child? Fashion parades. Cricket. Cricket is the opium of the masses. Day and night cricket. You see, the Roman emperors used to say, if you cannot give the people bread, give them circuses. Take them to the Colosseum, see the gladiators contests going on. See, this is the role which the large section of the media is playing. See, does a hungry or unemployed man want entertainment, or does he want food in his stomach and a job? The media says, no, he doesn't want food and a job, he wants entertainment. Give him circuses, as the Roman emperors used to say. 250,000 farmers committed suicide in the last 15 years. Average 47 farmers suicide every day, which is still continuing. For 5 years, the media suppressed it, would not allow it to be published. Ultimately, when the problem became so massive, you could not conceal it. And when great writers, great journalists like P. Sainath highlighted the farmers' suicides, 47 per day, one every 30 minutes. You just could not concede. Then the media started publishing, and that too very little. More important is Devanand's death. That in every almost every leading newspaper, front page headline, Devanand has died, the greatest calamity has fallen on this country. See, what is Devanand's film? Now just analyze it rationally. I also enjoyed Devanand's film when I was a young man. See, a poor person, to get some temporary relief from his miserable life, he goes to a Devanand movie, sits there in the cinema hall for 2 hours, and for 2 hours he is transported into a world of make-believe. In a hill station, Devanand chasing a glamorous girl. So for 2 hours, he goes into transported into a beautiful world of tinsel. So it's like a drug or alcohol administered for 2 hours to keep him silent. This is the social purpose of such movies. It's like an opium you administer to make people quiet. 47% Indian children are malnourished. The Prime Minister admitted 42%, and he said it's a matter of shame. In fact, it is 47%. This is the world record today. We thought the African countries were the poorest countries. Sub-Saharan countries like Ethiopia and Somalia, who are the poorest of the African countries, they have only 32 or 33 children malnourished. We have 47. Half our children get the food he requires. A child requires, say, 3,000 calories a day. Half our children get 1,500 calories. All this must be suppressed. Is the media not behaving like Queen Mary Antoinette, who said that if the people cannot get bread, let them eat cake? You say the beautiful India shining and all this when 80% of people are living in such horrible conditions. A great role of the media which it should be playing is to give guidance to the people in the realm of ideas. Because apart from the two traditional roles which the media has, namely firstly to give information and secondly to give entertainment, the third role is to give leadership to the people in the realm of ideas. As the European media did during the time of transition in Europe from 17th to 19th century. The media should give leadership to the people by promoting rational ideas, by promoting scientific ideas. Instead, it promotes superstitions, bhoot paret ki kahaniyan, astrology, nonsense, because it gives you high TRP rating. All you are interested in is making money. See, there's nothing wrong in making money. I'm not against making money, but it has to be coupled with social responsibilities. You cannot say, I'm a businessman, I must make money even if the rest of the country goes to hell. Sorry, this is not an acceptable position. You will not be allowed to say this. Businessmen must know. Nothing wrong in making money, but it has to be coupled with social responsibility. You must develop a sense of social responsibility. You cannot say, as long as my pocket keeps getting filled, let society go to hell, let the country go to hell. Sorry, this is not going to be tolerated very long. And you will learn it the hard way if you don't learn it in a rational way. This lesson is coming very quickly from the Indian people for you people. You must develop social responsibility. The media has become so commercialized. See, what is paid news? Recently, a very senior minister, a colleague of Mrs. Ambika, so I will not name him, he came to meet me just a few days back. He said, Justice Kadri, do you know how bad the situation is in the media? This is what he told me. I said, what? He said, if we hold any press conference, we have to pay money to most of the journalists. Otherwise, they will not give us a favorable coverage. And in fact, even journalists who don't come to the meeting, later on send a demand to us that we are getting some information from my colleague, give me money. Is this an honorable way to behave? Is this an honorable way to behave, to earn your livelihood? Paid news has become scandalous. In fact, in the elections, any person who fights elections, I'm talking of the Lok Sabha, not the Raj Sabha, by the way, ask any politician and he will tell you what he has faced. Many ministers have told me, many people, both from the Congress and from the opposition, have told me, earlier, some journalists would come and say, give me 20,000 rupees and I'll publish news in your favor. Then the media, the owner, the proprietors got the wise idea that why should all this money go to our employees, the journalists? Why should it not go to my pocket? So then they came with packages. In the 2009 election particularly, 50 lakh package, 1 crore package. In fact, sometimes it was so ridiculous that in one paper, on the front page, the headline was that candidate A winning by huge majority. And on the same page of the same newspaper, in the same issue, at the bottom, paid for by the rival candidate, it was that candidate is losing his security deposit on the same page. Because that was paid and this was paid. What kind of nonsense is this? Is this shameful? You must develop some sense of honor. Is this the way honorable people should behave? Because nothing wrong in earning money, but it must be done in an honorable way. See the Babas who are coming nowadays in your TV screens. What is, I mean, are you a bunch of fools? That's why I've written an article in Indian Express, 90% of Indians are fools. It's a fact. Full of casteism, communalism, this superstitions. I mean, I'm a very blunt man. हमने तो कह दिया कि एक टीवी इंटरव्यू में कि 90% इंडियंस के सर में गोबर भरा हुआ है, भूसा भरा हुआ है. ये फैक्ट है, सच्ची बात है. Casteism, communalism, not only illiterate. No, I forgive illiterate people, the poor people have not got education. I'm talking of educated people. When I know many bar associations, High Court Bar Association, lawyers of the High Court, when they go to vote, the Pandit lawyer votes for the Pandit candidate, the Kayas lawyer votes for the Kayas. आराम से ये हाई कोर्ट वकीलों का हाल है. भेड़ बकरी जैसे तुम वोट डाल दो. ये तुम्हारा रैशनल माइंड है, तुम्हारा इंटेलेक्चुअल लेवल है. This is, now the point is that should the media perpetuate it or should the media try to uplift the intellectual level of the people as the European media did? They made great sacrifices. Voltaire and Rousseau had to run for their lives. But they stuck to their guns. They said, no, we will help society. We will promote rationalism. We will promote scientific ideas. That is what the Indian media should be doing. Sensationalism, even at the cost of people's reputation. You know what happened in the case of Uma Khurana? And many instances I could give. You damage some people because you want a cheap sensation. You whip up the Mohali cricket match between India and Pakistan. It was hyped as if Mahabharat war is taking place. Arey bhai, it's just a cricket match. How does it matter whether India beats Pakistan or Pakistan beats India? Does it reduce the if you've beaten Pakistan, does it reduce the poverty? There are real issues. Poverty, unemployment, does it? But you hype because you want to sideline the real issues. You want to show that the real issues are non-issues and non-issues are the real issues. Cricket match and astrology and film stars' lives. These are the real issues. This trying to befool the Indian people is not going to last long. Indian people, well, unfortunately, their intellectual level is low, but it is rising. They are learning gradually, and I'm sure the Indian people, their level will rise in the future, even if it is very low today. Some people said that I am sort of a dictator who wants to impose emergency, who wants to control the media. I have always said I am the greatest fighter for freedom of the media. I have fought for the freedom of media. Media people have not done it. When media people were physically attacked in some states, I wrote to the Chief Minister that I am not going to tolerate this. And you will get into trouble if you don't this stop. Because freedom of media is part of the Constitution, Article 19(1)(a), and if media people are being attacked, then you are not running your government in accordance with the Constitution. And you may have to be dismissed. If you don't run the, you have to stop this. In one state where I went, I was told by many journalists, although they are not being physically attacked, but this was the state of Bihar. I spoke to many journalists and they said there is media management in Bihar. Journalists are afraid to write against the Bihar government out of fear that if they write against the government, they will lose their jobs or get transferred or the advertisement will be stopped. There is some such scientific media management there. Just to give the impression, Bihar shining, Bihar shining. I said, Bihar shining? Where is Bihar? Let me see. What industries have been built? What progress? I said, I traveled in Bihar. I said, it's full of poverty, full of filth, rubbish, stacks of rubbish everywhere. I said, where is this Bihar shining? Is it only in newspapers? or is it to be seen with my eyes? With my eyes, I'm not seeing any Bihar shine. In any case, that was my tentative opinion. I've set up a 3-member fact-finding team which is investigating these reports, because this is a very serious thing. That if the government gives threat to media people, that if they write against the government, they'll lose their jobs, they'll get transferred or suffer. This is violation of the freedom of the press, which is a guaranteed right under Article 19(1)(a) of the Constitution. So and that is being investigated, but that was certainly my tentative view. So I've been fighting for media freedom. But at the same time, media requires regulation. You see, there's a difference between control and regulation. In control, there is no freedom. In regulation, there is freedom, but it is subject to reasonable restrictions in the public interest. Take, for example, the lawyer's profession. It is a free profession, but it is a regulated profession, because if the lawyer commits professional misconduct, his license can be cancelled or suspended by the Bar Council. Similarly, doctor's profession, it's a free profession, but his license can be cancelled by the medical council for medical misconduct. Similarly, chartered accountant, similarly, all other professions. But media people say, we should not be regulated. Whole of society should be regulated. We should be left to regulate ourselves. Wonderful. How is that permitted? If everybody is accountable in a democracy, then you are also accountable. How can you say that no action should be taken against you if you damage people's reputation, if you spread communal hatred, or do other anti-national, anti-social things? Why should you not be punished? You say you want self-regulation. Self-regulation is no regulation. This and News Broadcasters Association and Broadcasting Editors Association, which they have set up for so-called self-regulation. How many channels have they penalized? Only one, I'm told, that was Rajat Sharma's channel, India TV. They slapped a fine of 1 lakh rupees. Rajat Sharma walked out of that body, and then they went with folded hands to him, please come back, and they withdrew all that, and that was the end of the matter. No other punishment. How many licenses has the NBA and BEA cancelled of TV channels? What punishment have they imposed? Why is everything kept secret there? Let them televise their meetings? What kind of self-regulation are you talking about? You are driven just by profit motive. So I have always pleaded not for control. I have always opposed controls. I've always advocated freedom of the press, but I've said no freedom can be absolute. Every freedom is subject to reasonable restrictions in the public interest. Because you see, we human beings are social creatures. We cannot survive alone. We have to, we can only survive in society with friends, with relatives and so on. So it follows from this that while you must have freedom, you cannot have freedom to harm others. You cannot have freedom to harm society. Your freedom has to have some limits. You cannot exercise it in a way to do damage to others. And therefore, there is a need, definitely a need for regulation. But what I've always advocated, this regulation should not be by the government, but by an independent statutory authority, like the Press Council of India. See, I'm the chairman of the Press Council of India. I was selected by a 3-member committee consisting of the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, who is the vice president of India, the speaker of the Lok Sabha, and 1 representative of the Press Council. There was no member of the government who selected me. And I'm not subordinate to the government. I've sometimes even criticized the government. I'm not subordinate. There are 28 members of the Press Council. I'm only the chairman. Out of those 28, 20 are from the press. 5 are from Parliament, 1 representative of Bar Council of India, 1 of the UGC, and 1 of the Sahitya Academy. So, all decisions are taken by majority vote. It's a democratic body. Often in the Press Council meeting, my proposals have been rejected by the majority, and I have respected their verdict. I'm a democratic person. So I'm not a dictator who can decide everything on my own. Everything is decided by the body by majority vote. So if electronic media is also brought into the purview of this, by an amendment to the Press Council Act, as I have recommended, then there will be representatives of electronic media also in this body. And all decisions will be taken by majority vote. But there must be penal powers. There must be fear of punishment. See, this talk of self-regulation, just please consider it. Then why should there be laws at all? Why should there be a law against theft? Why should there be a law against rape? Why should there be a law against murder? Abolish the Indian Penal Code and say that society should self-regulate. If media wants self-regulation, then everybody should have self-regulation. Why have any laws at all? The very fact that there are laws means that society realizes that self-regulation is not sufficient. Some external regulation is also required, and fear of punishment is required if you do wrong things. So, the media should also have this. Till now they have had a free ride. They think they are so powerful, they're earning hundreds of crores, God knows how much. They can do whatever they like. I'm sorry, the time is coming when Indian people are saying, look, this will not be acceptable. You people also have to be accountable to the public. This is democracy, and therefore you will not be allowed to do wrong things. Why should you be allowed to propagate communal ideas, communal hatred? Why should you be allowed to say that people in India should be kept poor? No, you should not be allowed. Your mouth should be shut if you talk like in this anti-social and anti-national way. So therefore, there has to be restriction, but by an independent statutory authority, like the Press Council of India. And I advocated this. I met the Honorable Minister, I met the Honorable Prime Minister, I even met the leader of the opposition in Lok Sabha, Mrs. Sushma Swaraj. And I said, this was your statement in Parliament that there should be regulation on the media. She said, yes. I said, then you people should move. See, it's not a question of Markandeya Katju as if I am a dictator. You have somebody else, all right. Point is that there has to be some regulation. Just imagine, people's reputations are at stake, people's sensitivities are at stake. Media wants to do whatever it likes, promote superstition, promote nonsense, promote lives of film star. If I had not raised such a hue and cry about the pregnancy of a film star, lady film star, I am sure the birth of the child of that film star would have been front page headline news. But I raised a hue and cry that what are you doing? In this country of such massive poverty and unemployment, a film star having a child is a front page headline news for you. Then because I raised a hue and cry, then quickly guidelines were framed, and that news was then, relegated to the 7th page or 8th page. Otherwise, it would have been front page news. This is the level of much of the media, I'm sorry to say, and it's high time that this needs to be rectified, because this is no longer an acceptable state of affairs. India has to progress, and for progress, rational and scientific ideas must be spread to every nook and corner of the country. For this, the media has to play a great role, a historical role, as the European media played from the 17th to the 19th centuries. Thank you.
Thank you to Justice Katzu for his very thought-provoking message. And as he said, that as we are progressing, we are actually progressing at the cost of degradation of our values.